makes most women start a business? Is it passion, money, or freedom? Welcome to Female Founders, the podcast that takes you behind the scene with women who are founders and CEOs to help you start and scale a successful business of your own. I am your host, ShaniTaDa Ravine. Hello everyone, welcome to another episode of Female Founders. In today's episode, I have the pleasure of speaking with Shanita Baraka Akintonde. Shanita, also known as ShaniTaDa, is an exceptional global leader, advocate for women's empowerment, TEDx speaker, and the president and chief love officer of Shanita Speaks, LLC. Her expertise in marketing, communication, media, branding, diversity, and equity has gained worldwide recognition. Let's dive into Shanita's love for supporting others. Thank you, Shanita, for giving me that opportunity to talk to you, to get to know a little bit more about your work and all the great things you have been doing. I'm so proud of you, I have to say. So can you tell us about your journey and what led you to become a global leader in marketing, communication, media, branding, diversity, equity, and inclusion?
Well, thank you, my sister, for that. And I feel that we are connected, even though we're across borders, across terrains here today on this wonderful day here in the Windy City where I'm located. So, when I'm asked, Shanita, how did you get your start as a global leader or as a, marketing expert or whatever moniker you want to put in front of my name? I always go back to the fact that the saying is you eat an elephant one bite at a time. And I believe that our steps are divinely ordered. And I think that everything that we end up ultimately becoming, and that's an active word in my vocabulary, I am still becoming. I'm not there yet. It's a journey, not a destination. But it traces back to my great-grandmother and my great-grandmother, my maternal great-grandmother, who instilled in me when I was, very, very young, I like to say between Barbie dolls and boys, that I could be and become anything that I wanted to be. I didn't see it then. I didn't know what she was saying to me. I was, this little pigtailed, bifocal eyeglass wearing little girl who's like, what is she saying to me? But what I know now and what I try to do with others is that when you have someone that pours into you, that sees what you don't see in yourself, then that will later manifest. And so I believe that she may not have known the terminology global leader or, marketing shero, as I call myself, but she knew that there was something divinely ordered for me in my future. So I just try to manifest that.
So she knew that you will do something much bigger than yourself. You just doesn't know it. You don't know it yet.
Correct.
Is she still with us right now?
No, we lost her in 1987. And I like to say that was the same year that Aretha Franklin got elected into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. And so, Aretha has that song that we all have as one of our mantras, RESPECT. And so that is what I think is fitting, because that's another thing I took from my great grandmother, that always, command respect, always seek respect or manifest respect in all the ways that you possibly can.
And that's what I love with grandparents. They always have that wisdom that keep you going even in your darkest moment of life. You always want to go back. You're like, what was she doing? What was she? She would have done this, or she would have done that instead. You know what? I think she's right. Let me go do that too. So I think it's a great thing, to have this type of people in our lives.
I agree. And it extends beyond her. She's the matriarch, but then my grandmother, then my mother, my father as well. And then I try to do the same with my children. I have two sons and they're young adult males in the world navigating their space. And I try to instill in them that same sense of agency, that same sense of can-do-itness, if you will, that they can conquer the world, because I believe that it starts in the home and it extends from there.
Exactly. And I believe she did well.
Well, thank you.
So now, what inspired you to start your own global media enterprise?
I want to be the change I wish to see. I am not a person that just sits back and complains or points fingers, because as you know, they say if you point a finger, there are four pointing back at you. So rather than me sitting back and looking at things that I feel are out of my control, and many are, but I decided to take those things that are within my control. And that is that I am a communicator at heart. Communication is in my DNA. Marketing is my right arm, and leadership is my left. So when you combine all of those skills that I know I personally possess, it only made sense to put them on a global map. And the reason why I specifically looked at global and not just, here in Chicago where I am, or local in the state of Illinois even, I've always been a big thinker. And that goes back to when I was a little girl. I was always that one who thought, why do we have to just do this little sandbox activity for my friends? Let's go across to the other side of the community, as long as I was home by the time the street lights came on, right? But at least in my little world at the time, I was always the adventurer. And so it makes sense for me to want to do that with my businesses.
So now how long you have your business?
So I rebranded. I initially launched my business in 2002. That was when I first started doing my professional speaking, and I was putting my toe in the water. And then I did that for about almost 10 years, actually. And then I put it on the side, started focusing on teaching because I'm a professor. I was a tenured professor for 25 years almost here in Chicago. And I did that and taught others to do what I'm doing now in the classroom. I like to say I took them from the classroom to the boardroom. So I had thousands of students that I helped do that. And then in right prior to actually in the midst of the pandemic, the idea came back to me when I was sitting on my couch, like many of us were during that time, thinking and eating, and still trying now to fit in my pre-pandemic pants. But don't judge me on that. Don't judge me on that. I digress. But I was sitting there, eating and looking at TV probably. And it came to me, okay, Shanita, there's more to your life than what you're doing right now. You should think about rebranding your business. And so in 2020, I started to rethink it. And in 2021, I officially rehung out my shingle, this time as Shanita Speaks LLC. And that is when I decided to look more specifically at those who needed to lead better, listen better, and especially love better, and ourselves and those that may appear to be different. And so all of that just kind of came in my head, and it perfectly converged. And since that time, I've been running to keep up with myself. It's been great.
So now what are the services that the company offers?
Yeah, so I'm a content creator. Between writing, I am an author of books, which I am very proud of. One of my latest ones is Leading from the Heart, BAM, that I talk about my great-grandmother that I just mentioned here. She's near and dear. I'm a podcast host. I have a podcast called Marketing Insights, blogger, newspaper columnist, right? I do all of these things that I do to put my word out in the world about leadership and communication and diversity. But then what we offer under my umbrella of Shanita Speaks are interactive workshops, immersive training programs, and I really personalize that for the individuals, particularly women and young adults. I am a very big proponent of training materials, so I offer curated curriculum items, whether they be via YouTube video information or written workbooks and written content. And then I just have a whole bunch of other creative, interactive tools in my toolkit that I offer to my clients. And based on their responses to me, whether, again, global or local, I get huge responses in terms of the energy that I bring, the attention to detail as it pertains to their organization or company, because I do research. So it's not cookie cutter, it's personalized to them. And their employees are better when they leave me, if it's an organization. They are able to hit the ground running and make tangible differences in their organization that are palpable and that are traceable to the content.
Do you also provide a one-on-one coaching or?
Oh, yes, absolutely one-on-one. Because here's the deal about one-on-one, which I particularly appreciate. I talk about my great-grandmother a lot, as you've heard me already do in our interview. And one of the things I gleaned from her is how she would sit on her porch in her rocking chair and have a wad of tobacco stuffed in her left cheekbone and a spit can like adjacent to her, right? She could hit it with so much accuracy that
Are you serious?
She was amazing. It's kind of gross, I know, but she did it. But my point of using that analogy is in those moments where it was just she and I on that porch, whether she was talking aloud or just we were just in each other's presence, was so moving to me. In retrospect, in particular, not necessarily in the moment. I don't know if I fully appreciated it, but in looking back, I can definitely see. And so I say that to say I bring that to my coaching in an individual way. And that's why listening is a key component of my business model, because I think all of us talk a lot, but we don't necessarily know how to really listen. And so having one-on-one opportunities with people allows me as a coach to listen to what is both stated and not stated and give them my feedback in order to help them grow and develop into who they want to be.
You never find out that after you listen to them, you ask just one question and then they only give you the answer. And then the answer is what they were looking for the entire time. But because people, sometimes we don't take time to ask ourselves questions, we can't really come up with the answer for ourselves. But when you talk to someone, like just one question, it's like, oh, yeah, thank you.
You are so brilliant in saying that, because I'm a Toastmaster as well. And I am going to be giving a workshop next week, actually, and it's called Allow Me to Introduce You to Yourself. And what I'm doing is, to your point, I'm not going to reveal anything new under the sun to these folk who attend. And right now I've got over 150 registrants, but when they come, I'm not going to tell them necessarily anything that they don't already know. But what I am going to do is pose the questions raised that make them take back. Oh, I never asked myself. And that's the key. That's the key.
Yes, it is. Studying psychology, that's one thing that I find that's very important, is to ask the right questions to be able to help the person without have to give them any advice, without have to say anything. They themselves figure out the problem and fix it themselves. So absolutely. I love that. Mm-hmm. So now, you as the #1 ranked podcaster, congratulations. Can you tell us about your podcast and its focus?
Sure. So podcasting is my playhouse. Can I tell you that? So again, as a little girl, and I think we all have our inner children that we need to tap into. We were really smart when we were young, and we knew things, and we were bold, and we were courageous, right? And we could just do everything in the world. Nothing seemed to be off limits. And then as we become adult, when we start adulting, then we start to sometimes hold ourselves back or to censor our natural creativity in many cases. And so for me, the podcasting is my ability to tap into the inner Shanita, the little Shanita. But she never left me. We check in with each other on a regular basis, daily, actually. So the podcast for me is my opportunity to share in a different format the communication skills that I've been talking about, the creativity of the written word, whether it's spoken or we look at it paper. It's just magical to me. And so the convergence of my ability to talk about brands and marketing, which is my area of expertise, along with the creativity of the words that I pull together to share with an audience in a short snapshot, right? It's like 8 to 12 minutes. So a little vignettes of what I do is like euphoric for me. I am elephant ear elated every time I have an opportunity to research and prepare a podcast. And I'm on my 41st one since I started in 2018. And I'm very proud of that, because
wow.
me, girl, what are you doing podcasting for? And look, the pandemic hadn't hit, but now podcasting is the #1 resource from an audio perspective that people are turning to now more than ever, because we all didn't really have options to do anything to do, right? And so now it's really, really been gratifying. And I'm grateful to McGraw-Hill for allowing me to do it, but please.
Do you have any guests? Do you bring any guests in, or is
Oh, funny you ask. So I say I'm like the Oprah Winfrey of podcasting. With her magazine, Oprah was the only one on the cover of her magazine for a very long time, right? She was branding herself. So I was doing the same thing with Marketing Insights. It was yours truly, me, myself, and I. Since that time, I've had a couple of guests, not a lot. I had a mentee of mine who I'm very proud of that I interviewed, another young lady that I interviewed. I'm now moving into that model a little more now that I think the brand has been established as you pointed out, it's number one. It's the number one podcast. Mine is. So I think my brand is pretty solid now. So now I am open to guests. So if you would like to come on the show, you let me know and we can talk about some things. But sure, open to guests now. Select guests. But yes.
So you also said earlier that you are a professor. What did you teach in? Did you teach in high school? We're talking about college. What was the level?
Yes. So I was a professor at the university level, a liberal arts college here in Chicago, private university, and I actually attended the school. So I was a student there, graduated with my degree in marketing communication, and then I came back and became a full-time professor. And did that for 23 years. Wow. I taught in the School of Media Arts. Primarily, my areas of focus were marketing, advertising, public relations. I like to say like a MAP, M-A-P. I also taught general communication. I taught leadership courses. And then I really am proud to say I taught some courses called Culture, Race, and Media, and later Media and Society. And what those courses did were a convergence of social justice and media, particularly looking at the ways in which media can be utilized to influence behaviors and to combat stereotypes, particularly about Black people, brown people, women, people with disabilities, etc. How sometimes the media can be used as a catalyst for change, and sometimes it can be used to perpetuate those stereotypes. So I would use case studies. I would pull examples from film, wow, music videos, etc., and really share with my students the opportunity to be the media makers of the future. And the last thing I'll say is this: what was really, really gratifying for me was at the end of each semester in those courses, the students themselves would have an opportunity to create their own version of what the world could be if they were creating media that did the opposite of what some of the media does to marginalize certain groups. And can I tell you what those students came up with? Amazing, amazing. So this next generation, which is why that's part of my demographic with my company that I focus on, Gen Z or millennials or whatever you want to call them, so future focused, so yes, amazingly creatively talented in ways that their predecessors don't know anything about. So I'm very excited to see what they're going to be.
But also, I remember at the beginning, you said that they are doing great things out there, the one that you taught. And then you taught them to go out there and then doing great work. Is some of them also become professors just like you did?
They want to. See, this is what I think. And I think it's a sign of when you do something so effortlessly as I try to emulate, right? People don't see what I call the Spanx under the dress. They don't need to see the Spanx under the dress, right? That shouldn't be seen. It just makes the silhouette nice. Mm-hmm. But what they don't know when they ask me about being a professor, which I encourage them to become, but they have to put in the time and the education and get the kind of badges of honor, so to speak, to work their ways up to becoming a professor, right? You don't just become a professor. But I encourage them that they should definitely look into becoming that if that's what they are interested in doing. And I will mentor them, and I am mentoring several of them now on that journey so that they can prepare themselves.
But also, I know that you are like a big advocate for women's empowerment. May I ask why?
You may ask why. You want me to answer?
Yes. Why?
You know, I am a woman, and I am a Black woman. And I have found, and I got this term from Shonda Rhimes, who, if listeners don't know who she is, she's a writer, television shows like Bridgerton and Scandal and How to Get Away with It.
Yes.
She has a book that The Year of Yes. And in the book, she talks about this idea of being a FOD, first, only, and different, wherever she went. And I wrote that down and remembered that because I said, Shanita, you're often a FOD, first, only, and different. All of the spaces often that I'm entering, academia, whether it be in leadership roles in company or other organizations I'm a part of in the world, it's become so second nature to me that it doesn't surprise me any longer when I walk in spaces and I'm the only one. But to pull out the women the woman part, to suss that out. What I have found is that there are many women who are still trying to navigate those spaces, that they are not necessarily, understandably so, able to do so fluidly, able to do so with the confidence that I mentioned we often have when we're younger, but it starts to dissipate as we get older. They're often, because so many doors are shut, boom, 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 or windows closed, or opportunities that they know they should get cut off, censored, tossed in the trash. Having conversations with those women, seeing those women, being one of those women, I knew it was my responsibility to help to shine a light, illuminate a path, to help women like myself reach their intended destination. And so I don't even see that as optional. I am a person who's going to build as I climb. I'm going to reach back and pull up. That's just who I am. I'm not going to get in a position and close the door behind me and say, well, you know what? I had to do all this to get here. Figure it out, which unfortunately some people do. I am the opposite. I'm going to say to you, we're going to do this together. If you can't come with me at the same time, when I'm there, I'm not only going to prepare the table for you, I'm going to show you the blueprint so that we build a house where the table is placed in. And we don't just build one house where the table is placed in. We build several houses. Then you have one, I have one, and the other women have one. But we're not just going to have a house, right? We're going to have a castle. And the castle's going to reach so high, it's going to reach the galaxy. And then we're going to climb up there and go in the stars. So, I am the type of person, like I said, that really believes in being the change I want to see. So as a woman, there's lots of opportunity for change. And so I just want to be one of the change.
And you are one of them. You are one of them. But you have a few books out. Can you tell us a bit about about them? What are they focused on?
Yes. So I have 3 books that I am a contributing author to. I have a 4th one coming out very soon, Lord willing. And so the books are, as I mentioned, The Leading from the Heart, where I talk about my great-grandmother, Lucille Jones, and how she, with her 3rd grade education, is one of the smartest women that I knew, who raised my mother, blah, 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 and my grandmother, etc. I talk about her. My chapter is called Leading from the Heart, Bless Your Heart, because blessing your heart has multiple meanings. Okay. Quickly. My other one is called Unleash the Leader Within You. My chapter is in this book, talks about leadership and the basic steps I share if you want to become a leader. I believe leaders are made, not born. So you can learn tips and strategies and tactics to become a leader. And then lastly, this book is called When Leadership Fails. And this book talks about what happens when you have a mentor, dun, 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 but it goes south, because the mentors often, sometimes, for whatever reasons, don't give us what we need. They may, as I said earlier, be the type of people that close that door versus propping it open. And so I share my personal story in this one, and I talk about what one failed mentorship relationship looked like, but how I turned that around. What I use that to do as a stepping stone versus as a grave. And so those are the 3 books that I currently am a contributing author in. And the last book that I will be contributing to is about Black women and mental health, and particularly the role of media, the role that the media plays in us seeing ourselves as superwomen, and that's a stereotype as well, and what we can do to help negate. So yes, thank you for asking.
But one thing you just said that's very interesting, you said that when a mentor closed the door, and what's now? Because you've been relying on that person to guide and help you and take you to where you need to be. So what advice would you give to people that's in that situation where the mentor closed that door? The mentor said, I can no longer be your mentor. So what should they do? What advice do you have for them?
So here's the thing about mentors. We think often of people who are in certain roles that they themselves have been properly equipped to hold that title. And more often than not, there's something called reverse mentoring, in which the mentee actually becomes the mentor to the alleged mentor in the first place, right? Because the roles reverse. Or it could be the sense that just because you're a certain age, doesn't mean you don't have enough information to be able to share with someone who's more senior than you. But to answer your question, a couple of things come to mind. I like to take a step back and assess the situation and not take it as from a personal perspective, but try to be as objective as possible. It's difficult to do when you're in a work situation, particularly if it's your first job, because emotions are tied often into where we work, because we spend more time at work than we do any other place. But that being said, when you take a step back and look at the full picture at where the mentor's mentality is, what it is that he or she may be, what may be driving them, it may not even have the least bit to do with you from a personal perspective, but it still affects you personally. What I would do is think about this. Don't feel you have to address things on your own. I think often we want to go one-on-one into situations and confront the person or ask the person, why are you doing X, Y, Z? I don't suggest that. I suggest you document everything. Perhaps you get colleagues, if they're at the same level of you in an organization, and you all have a sit-down conversation, and maybe you unite and talk to a superior at the company and explain that you as a united front are seeking different opportunities. You also can seek others in an organization who are senior to you that can offer you advice related to this individual or other individuals in the company without pointing fingers or giving specific names, because you don't want to alienate yourself in the workplace, but just seek advice in a general way. And then lastly, you don't have to stay within the confines of your organization. You can seek and should have a team of individuals outside of your place of work, whether they be former professors, whether they be colleagues, as I mentioned, at other organizations, either at the same level or senior. So build a community around you so that you have resources and you're not feeling as though you have to act alone. But the key is to do that before you need it, right? Don't get in a desperate situation when you're in the midst of it, because then you're frantic and you're calling, oh my God, this is what's happening to me at work. And so that changes the dynamic of how and what is being said and how you receive the messaging. Be proactive, get people in place ahead of time, remain as calm as possible, and call me. I'll help you.
Shanita is here when you need it.
Yes, call me.
But something also, it seems like family seems to be an important part of your life. So how has your personal journey and the support of your loved ones influenced your drive and dedication to making a difference in this world?
Yes, thank you for that question as well. I am a very, very connected to family person. I believe that they are the heartbeat of Shanita Akintonde. Without my family, not only be here to support me and to help me propel myself forward, I also need their support, because as a working mother, which I have been since I have started my professional career, balancing my family, my husband, my sons with work has been in and of itself a challenge. Anyone who says that it's easy needs to just come and have a day or rewind the tape in my life and see what it looked like. But because I knew that both were not optional for me, I knew that I wanted to be a professional woman, but I also knew that I wanted to have a family. And I know often that's difficult, especially for women, because at the end of the day, whether you have a supportive spouse like I do, the burden often with motherhood and children falls a lot on the woman.
Yes.
It doesn't mean that her partner isn't helping her, but just for whatever reasons, a lot of it is us. So I would find myself, helping with homework and then staying up to midnight trying to finish a report at the company that I worked for at the time. But regardless, I would do it all over again 1,000 times, because for me, what it allowed me to stay in tune to, and I parlayed it into my professional work, high levels of EQ. I was intuitive because I was intuitive to what my children's needs were, what my husband's needs were, and that raised my antenna to being intuitive with my students in the class, with my colleagues at work. Organizational skills, when I had to balance chess tournaments, basketball games, PTA meetings, work things, being able to schedule and organize those things and keep it flowing, amped up my organizational skills. And lastly, and I think this is most important, I embraced the idea of cooking a meal for my family. I thought that was important that my kids would. Now it wasn't every night, and sometimes it was Mickey D's, but I would cook and I would do the things to make sure I remained it grounded, that I never got too far ahead of myself and got too big headed. Because children, let me just say this lastly, they are your level setters. You might be a CEO of a company out in the world. I may be podcasting it and doing all this stuff, being interviewed by you. But you get home and children look at you and say, okay, great, mom, but did you get my socks out of the dryer? Did you remember that I needed to take these bottles of Gatorade so it helps you go, oh, yeah, I do have to do those things.
Mom, I'm hungry.
Mom, I'm hungry. Well, we don't care about that podcast. What you got in the pot? What about the podcast?
I'm hungry. Good job, Mom. I'm proud of you, but
right, we don't call you professor and all these degrees. Whatever. What's on the stove? We're hungry.
But one thing, Shanita, that I love with children also, even then they know you're doing all these things. They might not say it a lot to you, but behind your back, when they're in the classroom with the classmates, with friends, you'll be surprised. They're like, "Oh, my mommy is a professor. Did you know my mommy was in a podcast not too long ago? Yeah, my mommy was in a magazine cover. Oh yeah, my mommy can do that." So they kind of even then you think they're not paying attention to you. At the end of the day, they are. That's what I learned from my son. They are paying attention to you. Yes, don't get me wrong. They want the food. That's the priority right there. They want all these things, but they remember the things that you are doing. They acknowledge them. They know them. And the best part of it, they are proud of it. And they are not scared to go out there and talk about it. You might be scared, but they are not, which is amazing.
That's a great point.
And I love them for that. I think that it's good to have our cheerleaders even when we don't know that they are cheering for us somehow. But now, what excites you the most about your work?
What excites me the most about my work? It's the opportunity to meet people like you, to connect with Women L and women in particular around the world. It energizes me. Women and people in general, but women in particular and young adults, they energize me in ways that I can just feel in my spirit. I'm always happier. I float. I walk a little differently. I smile a lot more. It's like what I call when I produce my workshops and my content that I give to clients or that I share in the world. It's like intellectual ice cream, I call it, because I'm able to use my brain, but it's still a treat, right? I get much joy from it. And most importantly, I never meet a stranger. I am a genuine person. I try to put my authentic self out when you meet me. So if you meet me in a workshop or you meet me at the grocery store, you're going to get Shanita. You're going to get the same person, right? I'm consistent with that because it's who I am. I can't be anybody else. Those roles are taken. So it got to be me. And I'm excited to be able to use the gifts that God has given me to help others manifest in themselves the best that they can be. That to me is what I was put on this planet to do. So in everything I touch, I try to leave it better. Every person I meet, I want them to be better. And when I leave the room, to your point about what kids say about you, I want anybody who meets me when I leave the room to still have wonderful things to say about me, even when I'm not physically present. That's my goal. And that's what I seek.
I love it. It's just being you being you all the time.
Yes. Yes.
So what advice do you have for women who are striving to break barriers and reach their full potential?
I think that we need to give ourselves more credit as women. I think that we need to recognize that each of us is uniquely gifted, uniquely talented. And what I often say is you can't compete with me. I am owner of a business, a podcast host, professor, wife, mother. I've gone to school for so many certifications and degrees. I just completed a program at Harvard called the Women of Color Certification Leadership Program in the space with all of these leaders from around the world on Harvard's campus. And we were so proud. And I was so proud. That's a long list of accomplishments. But guess what? You can't compete with me because I want you to win too. I want you to win too. I want you to win. And what I want you to do is look in the mirror and recognize that you don't have to worry about anybody else's doing whatever they're doing because you've got your own set of things that are just for you, that are uniquely for you. And once you open that gift box that we all have and pull it out, put it on and wear it and strut around, whether it's your bedroom or the boardroom, you will be amazed at what it is you can do. So what I say to women is own you and what's yours. And then you don't have to worry about what's going on around you because your gifts are going to elevate you to where you're supposed to be. And I don't think we often do that. And so that's one of my message points. And that's what I'd spend a lot of time working with women on unpacking.
Unfortunately, we don't. And we need women like you to remind us that we need to do that every day because we always forgot. We take care of everyone else. We just, for some reason, it's something that is on us. We need to do it. We take care of everyone else but ourselves. But I have two questions for you before I let you go.
Sure.
The first one is, how can someone reach out to you?
So I am all over social media. I'm on LinkedIn as Professor Shanita Akintonde, as my name appears here on the screen. I'm on Instagram. I am on Twitter at _Shanita Speaks. And also I have a website, which is www.ShaniTaSpeaks.com. You can also just go online and Google me and I'll pop up and you can find ways to contact me, reach out to me. I don't know if there'll be a slide which has my contact information here on the end of this podcast, but please, I respond. If I don't respond within 72 hours, just shoot me another email or text. I'm very responsive and I'll get back to you. And I welcome everything from notes to cards, to emojis, to if you want information about how to get in touch with me about my service offerings, let me know that as well. I will come to you. And because of Zoom, I can come virtually or in person, whatever you please, whatever pleases you.
So my second question is, let's look a little bit ahead. So what are some of your goals and inspiration for the future? How do you plan to continue making a difference and contributing to a more inclusive future for everyone?
Thank you. So in the media landscape is my next foray. I mentioned the podcasting, which is audio. I'm now looking at doing something visually via some visual form of media, whether it be television, whether it be through YouTube, establishing some type of content that I consistently put out in the world from a visual perspective. So be on the lookout for that. Secondly, I mentioned young adults being the future in many ways. And so I am curating a very special program targeted to recent college graduates, a mentoring program that I am going to be launching in the fall of next year. And that is going to give young folk an opportunity to tap into their talent and hidden potential often to be and become who it is that they want to be. And then lastly, I am putting together a one-woman show, which is going to me just having a little bit of fun and pulling together all these various things I enjoy, which are music and dancing and writing. I don't sing, but I can lip sync very well, and other creative things that I'll be pulling together. And I'll start wherever folks want me to appear to put that on for them. That'll be the last piece of the last feather for now in the I'm excited.
Oh my goodness. I don't know where you find the time to do all of them, but hey, we need women like you to keep us going. That's all I can say. Thank you so much for giving me the chance to talk to you and then to get to know you a little bit more, what you do and why you're doing it, because there's always a story behind it. Either it's our grandparents or grandparents or our parents or someone else in the family. Sometimes it's even a stranger that just motivate us and then get us started in our journey. It's always there's something behind it that's kicking up. Or sometimes it's something bad that happened to us. We turn it to something fabulous. But I thank you so much, ShaniTaDa, for what you're doing.
May I just say one thing that I would be remiss in saying if I don't give this shout out, please, in closing, I'd like to say two things. I am president of Leading Ladies, which is a group of women that is our Toastmasters club. And I'm giving a shout out to my Leading Ladies and Toastmasters and my sister. I have one sister, Danielle Tavon Bishop, whom I adore, who's my biggest cheerleader. And Danielle, I love you. And I didn't say anything about her. So I want to say that. Hey, sister. All right. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Shanita.
Thank you for listening to Female Founders Podcast. That's it for this week's episode. Be sure to follow us on your favorite podcast app or connect with us on womel.com so that you don't miss our next episode. See you next time. Bye for now.